let me make sure that my Twitch is up and going on a separate screen. Connect. I gotta really work on my audio the next time I get a chance. But for now, the mic will be to my face. No, don't do that. Can't believe it did that. My bad, you guys. Okay. Can't believe it did that. My bad, you. Sorry about the echo you might just experience. Okay. Alright. Sounds good to me. Okay. Make sure I'm settled and whatnot. But this stream will not be a long one. I think my last stream was on Halloween, and it was kind of like a prelude to what's to come. And I'm not going to put a precise schedule on when I'm going to do streams. Be mainly based off of how I'm feeling, and if I get suggestions on something that won't be discussed. And streams would vary between anywhere. It could last 15 minutes, it could last 30 minutes, it could last 2 hours. It just depends. It also depends on if I'm going to have someone on the stream with me, all that kind of good stuff, you know? So, yeah. So today's stream is the first of the podcast, the official beginning of the podcast series. And this will be available on YouTube. I plan on putting it on streaming platforms like podcast platforms like Spotify or something like that. But we'll get there when we get there. But yeah. So what we're doing today is just basically break it down, what I will be doing, and just the vibes. You get what I'm saying? I don't plan on going too in depth with topics I bring up today because I'm going to reserve that for future podcasts. But today, just giving you a taste of what's the deal and what to expect. So, if you don't know, this podcast is a horror podcast. And the reason why I chose horror, it is a genre that I kind of was thrusted into as a kid or whatever. And as I gotten older, I've been more fascinated with it because of the idea of being horrified. What I mean by that is, why would someone want to be frightened? We all can agree as humans that we don't like being scared or anything like that. However, you enjoy watching a horror movie. You enjoy going to a haunted house. You enjoy reading something terrifying, listening to spooky music, dressing up for Halloween of something that might scare you. Why? If you don't like being frightened. So that idea interests me. But then you have me being also drawn to it because of the different mediums of horror and how what's scary for one person isn't scary to another. So I'm going to make that distinction first, that what scares one person might not scare another. So I'm not going to be sitting here and be like, oh, this shouldn't be scary to you, because I cannot identify fear for anyone else and their tolerance. I know what scares me. I know what gives me nightmares. It might not faze everybody else, but stuff that might just drive someone up the wall might not just do anything for me. So with that being said, so let's first break down is, what do I consider horror and how I'm going to kind of differentiate. So I consider horror an umbrella, and there are many subgenres of horror. And the best way I can word it, if this makes sense, not There could be horror in anything, but not everything is horror. So what I'm trying to do is pick genres that has subgenres rather that have horror elements that are just really honed in, if that makes sense. Not honed in, but like if there's enough in there that makes you uncomfortable, I consider it horror. If this makes you anything that gives you a feeling that's not pleasure, I'm putting it under the horror umbrella. So it could be a psychological thriller, it could be a suspense, it could be torture porn, it could be slashers, it could be body horror, it could be anything like that. All that is considered horror to me. I'm not saying my word is God. I'm just saying from my perspective here. So going further into that, I guess I should break down what are the. Uh-oh. Thank you for following me, anesthesian. I think I said that right. But but even so, what we want to do now, what I want to do now is break down what is considered a how should I put it? How to make distinctions of the subgenres of horror. What do I consider what subgenre? So let me try to give like the basic ones that everyone is well aware of. You did? Oh, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. Um, so basically, I want to break down what I consider what I consider subgenres and how I would view them as a definition standpoint. So let's start from the top. Let's start with slashers. Our slashers would be Michael Myers, Jason, movies like Sleepaway Camp, Bloody Valentine, Black Christmas, things of that nature. Those are slashers. Slashers to me can have supernatural means to them, but they're not so far removed from reality that you can't see it happening. Something that straddles that fence to me would be like Child's Play. If yeah, and I do plan on doing a stream specifically on killer doll horror or uh, what would the word be? I guess inanimate objects that made horrific. So that would be like Chucky, uh, the Gingerbread Man, Jack Frost, Christmas toys, even small soldiers. I put all that in that category. So from there, then you have supernatural things that still has a slasher genre a little bit. Might have hints of that in there, but or you can kind of place it in reality. You could see it happening. No matter, it's just that fine line between okay, this is outlandish, but in the right circumstances, I can see it happening. So that would be a movie like The Stuff. Um, one of my favorites, campy horror movies, Night of the Demons, Needful Things, stuff like that. Pet Cemetery. Then you got full on supernatural, which is Candyman and Pumpkinhead and Hellraiser and The Conjuring, Sinister to a certain degree. I'm gonna put that in the latter category. Things like that. Then you have body horror. Body horror to me would be like The Thing, They Live, to a certain extent, Aliens, um, and subgenres like that. Then you have uh, it, what I call it is what it is horror, which some people might call Eldritch horror. This basically you have things that happen and it just happens. You do not have an explanation. It just is, and you kind of have to accept it for what it is. Um, a good one would be oh my god, I can't pronounce the name. Is it Dartmouth, which is based off a H.P. Lovecraft book, and there's a whole line of movies that's in that little genre that's just wild. Um, then we're going to go into the categories that's a little bit more uncomfortable. First one would be thrillers. I put thrillers in the horror category because usually thrillers have something in it that will make the normal person uncomfortable and is usually based in a form of reality. So, for example, there's a Primal Fear, Hannibal, Red Dragon, just all the Hannibal films in general, to be honest. Um, you have Double Jeopardy, Hard Candy, things of that nature. I feel like those kind of movies are just they have elements in that make you really really uncomfortable, but they're not considered horror movies. They're considered suspense thriller or thriller. Then you have gore. I put gore in two categories, which is gore and torture porn. Gore is when there's a lot of blood and guts, but you kind of see where it comes from. A good example is the Asian film drama of just death games. That's a big genre of these movies where it's oh I had hiccups, excuse me. Where there's high school kids locked up or whatever, and they have to survive. And basically, it's a lot of blood, just big blood spurts. Think Kill Bill, House of Leaves fight scene, blood just everywhere. But then you have torture porn. Torture porn is just I'm gonna show you the most visceral parts of the human body, and you just gotta accept it. Which would be the best example I can give you without giving hints of what I might talk about later in future streams would be Hostel. Hostel is a good one. Saw is a good series to reference to. Human Centipede is another one. Things of that nature. Then you have pure torture porn. Now, torture porn to me is just visceral gore and it's just violence for the sake of violence. And those movies are not that well known. The only one that made it mainland in America, like to everyone's viewing, would be a Serbian film. But then you have movies like Grotesque and the hamster films, My Red Blood, Splattered, things like that. I'm not going to tell all the movies because you'll be like, "Ooh, I'm going to look those up." Then you know, um, then you have. I think those are the basic genres. I might throw a few ones in there as we go. But mediums I'm going to talk about. Of course, I'm talking about movies because movies are the most common thing you think of when you talk about reviewing and discussing certain matters like this. Then you have television series. Cool, right? Um, which interestingly enough, Dexter's eight next, they rebooted the season. Well, not reboot. They gave a night season because that eighth season sucked. They gave a night season that started airing yesterday, which is November the 7th. So we're going to do that. And no, we're not going to do that. I'm just saying that's out if you want to watch. So television series. Then we're gonna go with the book medium. So that means comic books, manga, and graphic novels. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are like, oh, you're gonna do manga? Of course, I'm gonna do manga. I love anime and manga, but I think that manga has a medium on it that movies and just movies and television can't touch to me. Just like animation, there's something about animation that seeing actual people do it, it doesn't hit the same. I guess the suspension of disbelief changes when you see an actual person reenacting something that was on a medium where anything is possible. So you got that. Um, then you have, so there's that. Um, like I said, comic books, because even though you might be like, oh, Marvel and DC is not considered a horror really, but they have different universes and worlds where there's some horrific stuff going on. There's horror elements all over that I would like to pinpoint and pick out. Um, Then I still want to go with talk about comics like Amaglam and stuff like that. I say Amaglam, but it's a Magnum. It just I've been calling it Amaglam since I was a kid. Um, but like I said, graphic novels. I think graphic novels are a wonderful medium with stuff like Crossed and The Walking Dead and things of that nature. Especially Cross. Cross is, oh boy. Um, but then I also want to include visual novels to that. And if you're unfamiliar with visual novels are mainly available on computer, but they also have some of them that made it to PC and Mac and like I said, PC and Mac. I don't know why I repeated myself, but PC, Mac, consoles and whatnot. Some people made it to phone. A more Americanized, not Americanized, but crossed over to America. Visual novels that people might be more well aware of is Danganronpa. Uh, yeah, Danganronpa and Corpse Party. Yeah, Danganronpa and Corpse Party are the best known visual novels that most people, not a lot of people know, but most people wouldn't know if they're in the know, if that makes sense. But I want to talk about stuff like You and Me and Her, School Days, not the anime. We're not going to discuss the anime. You, let's see, Song of Saya, as another one I'm thinking of. Ooh, yeah, yeah. That bring what I was about to say. I need to bring up this point. I might touch on Riona games or adult only games. Like touch on it briefly because 9 times out of 10 those games are full of H scenes. If you're not familiar with H scene, the H scene has hentai in it. Which goes back to the latter point, what a visual novel is, because I kind of skipped over it. It's basically, think of a picture book for adults. So you have a big picture and a little paragraph, and then you have a lot of images. So that's what a visual novel is. But going back to what I was saying, they have a lot of H scenes in them, and they're pretty graphic. You get to see from the rooter to the tutor. So brace yourself for that. But there's another genre under that called Riona games. I'm still debating on talking about that because a lot of Riona games have uncomfortable content in them that no one should support. But it's usually based off the degradation of women and just watching them either being sexualized or murdered in the worst ways possible. Don't know. And usually about 40 to 50% of the time they're underage, which is why I can't really rock with it. Which brings back to the visual novel point. There are some visual novels that have of age, but it's just graphic. An example for that I'm willing to mention is Euphoria. That is not a good time. So you have that. But then you have, now to the next genre would be just nasty films, like just nasty for the sake of being not nasty. Like, I don't get how people ever sit through them. They're just there to just disgust you. That's the whole purpose of the movie, to just see how long you can sit there and hold your vomit. And a very, very good example would be August Underground and the Vomit films. Look that up as you will. Another one is Salo. I think it's called Salo 120 Days in Sodom on Sodom. Watch that at your own risk, along with Pink Flamingos. That's the only ones I'm going to mention because I'm planning on doing a stream specifically on movies that made me kind of just in my mouth a little bit. And then the final one is basically real. And when I say real, I mean these movies are not simulated. There are no actors. There's nothing like that. What you're seeing is real life. You can find the actual news reports, the crime story, everything like that, if you look for it. Those are the movies that actually scare me the most, because nothing is more scary to me than humanity itself. So do with that as you will. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about some of my favorite horror movies to kind of give you some points of reference, so you might want to check them out before the next stream, so you know where my statute of limitations, where I started off at, my limitations, etc., etc. So my favorite schlocky, campy horror movie is the 1988-89 movie Night of the Demons. Love the movie. I was surprised because there's a black character in there who lived by being black. He minded his business. He dived through a window. He didn't wait on nobody. He cared about self-preservation, and he lived to tell the tale. He even did a cameo in the 2009 remake of Night of the Demons. The first horror movie that scared me was The Guardian, came out in 1990, which is about this killer tree. Well, this druid cult who sacrificed babies to a tree. It's wild. My most enjoyed horror series. My most enjoyed horror series is Art of the Devil. Art of the Devil is a trilogy from Thailand. Highly recommend it. My favorite revenge movie to me is I Saw the Devil, because it shows how far you can go into humanity. You can lose your humanity trying to get revenge. Gore wise, I don't really have a favorite gore film, but I have to pick one. I had to say Grotesque because that was my introduction to it. Anyway, this was just a short stream, just kind of give you guys of who I am and what I'm into and all that lovely stuff and whatnot. So you can follow me on Twitter by the same username. I'm not that hard to find. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. So make sure to give me a subscribe, follow me and whatnot, give suggestions. I'm open for all kinds of suggestions. You know, I'm open for whatever. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next stream. Also, if you want to be on one of the streams and discuss something that's horror related, feel free. I'll link you my Discord and I'll get you into a call and let's chit chat. Let's chat it up. All right, until next stream. Bye. Oh, I Saw the Devil's good and the background shots are so amazing. Yeah, I agree. It is. And I'm sorry I'm cutting the stream short. It's just the fact that, I didn't want, I'm just trying to give an introduction to everybody about what the whole spiel is and whatnot. And just some movies for reference to kind of watch. And if you saw the Devil, I do recommend watching the Revenge trilogy. It is a Korean trilogy. I think it's Old Boy, Miss Revenge, and there's another one. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. All three of those movies are good. Another good one is Hard Kill Mickey. It's Old Boy, Miss Revenge, and there's a third one. And I wish I could think of the name of it. It's at the tip of my tongue. There's another good one. I can't stand when that happens to me. My brain goes blank. Lady Vengeance. That's what it's called. Yeah, Lady Vengeance. I keep saying Mrs. Vengeance, but it's Lady Vengeance. Thank you. You know what? I'm actually gonna look it up. What is the name of that third movie? Because now it's bothering me. What is the name of the third movie in the Revenge series? The Revenge trilogy. Alright. It is Simply for Mr. Vengeance. That's what it's called. Simply for Mr. Vengeance. Because like the same guy that's in Old Boy is in that movie. But yeah. If I'm not mistaken, the same guy that was in Old Boy is the same guy that was in I Saw the Devil. Another good one is The Wailing. That's another Korean movie that's really good. But if another good list of movies to watch that you're interested, if you're interested in the high school death game kind of genre, like battle royale, is As the Gods Will, Death Bell, Death Count, Tag, movies like that. Kind of like these are movies that came out before Squid Game was a thing, and which I guess that's kind of why I like Squid Game, but it was like I've seen it before, because it's like a whole genre by itself in Asia. that America just really just not caught on to, which is kind of a shame. Um, I'm trying to think of other movies I could just recommend off the top of my head. Like I said, The Wailing. I really recommend The Wailing though. Like I can't recommend that movie enough. Quiet On. I recommend that on Twitter and whatnot during Halloween. Yeah, some of these movies are on what's the name of that website everybody used, the horror streaming website? Um, it's not Thriller. Oh man, horror streaming service. It is called Shutter. Some of it's on Shutter. Some of it is on just specifically Asian only like streaming websites. Excuse me, there's actually a website that streams specifically Asian horror. And speaking of Asian horror, and I know I keep mentioning Asian horror movies and whatnot. There's some good American ones too. Some, not many. Some. I feel like American horror prime prime was from the early 70s. No, I'll give it, yeah, early 70s all the way up to the like 2005. After that, American horror kind of fell off for me. You know, 80s we were overabundance with slashers, and I feel like it wouldn't be that bad if certain backlashes didn't happen. More specifically, the Friday the not Friday the 13th, but the Halloween thing, where Halloween was originally supposed to be a series where every movie takes place on Halloween, and each movie was supposed to have a different story behind it. That's why Season of the Witch is so different from the rest of the movies, and I love Season of the Witch. But because people wanted Michael Myers, they just canceled the whole idea, and that's why we have so many Michael Myers and so many Friday the 13th movies and stuff like that. And this also explains why I have a deep, deep love for anthology horror movies. And anthology horror would be Creepshow 1 and 2, Tales from the Dark Side, VHS, Trick or Treat, Tales from the Hood, those movies. Um, there's actually a new one out that, which got to give representation, represent. Um, it's a Native American anthology horror series that actually emphasizes on lore from Native American folklore. I cannot English today. Which is the name of that one is Native American horror movie. It is called. It's like come on. It's gonna give me a hard time finding it, and I'm not gonna be silent trying to figure it out. So, like I said, I recommend it. If you Google it, it should pop up. Yeah. I also do know Creepshow has a series out now. And Creepshow came from a comic book series that started out in like the 40s or 50s. I've yet to took time to read that, and I plan on it. Um, Something that I do want to go back and rewatch as well is Tales from the Crypt. That was a series I grew up loving. The one episode that stood out to me was the Three Little Pigs episode. If you grew up watching Tales from the Crypt and you came across that Three Little Pigs episode, yeah, you're in for something. It was so popular to the point where there was a kids show for Tales from the Crypt that came out around the same time Goosebumps came out. Which, yeah. Um, there's another one. I actually have started reading Archie Afterlife. Archie Afterlife is really good. I've caught up on the Chilling Tales of Sabrina. Um, One of my favorite graphic novels that scares me because of the evil humanity in it is The Crow, the original Crow comic book. It's heartbreaking. Um, which makes me appreciate the live action one with Brandon Lee in it. Rest in peace, because it's real close to it, but I can understand why they took some stuff out because the comic was so visceral and just heartbreaking. You just couldn't put it in the movie. It just couldn't happen. Um, Also, I forgot to mention this other medium while I was talking. I'm glad I kind of stuck around for that. I said my outro and everything, but it's fine. I don't mind talking some more. You know, it's gaming. I got to talk about gaming because I think gaming is the number one medium for horror to me. If you really want to be scared, play a horror game because it's different from watching someone doing something or reading someone doing something. You have no control over that. But when you play a game, you have 100% control. Well, as much control as the game will let you have. But it's something different when you see a character die because of your choices and actions. It makes you feel like I would have made that choice in action if I was really there, and I would have been dead. So some games that scare me, well, to me, that are scary. Let's see. Resident Evil Village, specifically the House of Benevento. Yeah, the whole game's not scary, just that second part. Sorry. Um, Witch's House was creepy. Messiah was creepy, but those are games that are like just 1,000 ways to die. And after a certain point, you stop being scared. You try to figure out how many times you can die and how brutally you can die. Um, let's see. Another one that is creepy to me, of course, I said Corpse Party. Corpse Party is scary, just the first one. And Book of Shadows. Is it Book of Shadows? It's the second game that's more so it's really like a visual novel. Those two are scary. Another one would be, hmm, wow, that's weird. There's not too many games that actually scares me. But the games that do scare me, they're indie. They're not really AAA titles, so they're usually RPG Maker horror games that really freak me out. Um, and to piggyback off of that, my favorite visual novel is a horror series, and it's Umineko. I did videos on that on YouTube and everything. I did a video on that. It's a banner on my Twitter. It's a banner on my YouTube. I streamed reading Umineko. I streamed reading some Higurashi, which is another one of my beloved series. Um, Another good horror manga is Higanjima. Higanjima is a good horror manga. Magical Girl Apocalypse, Narutaru. Dora, Dora, is it Dora 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 Dora? Yeah, Dora 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 Dora. Um, I'm just gonna name those for now because I can name others. But of course, Junji Ito and Frank and Fran and all the other stuff. But yeah, let me stop talking because I'll start giving more hints of what I might talk about in the future. My plan is making this a weekly stream. I hope that other people will join in and give thoughts and inputs, and that'll draw out the stream to be a lot longer. I plan on uploading this to YouTube. If you got suggestions, message me. I'm open to anything and everything. Talk to anyone about anything. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next stream. And I hope you guys are willing to go along for the ride. Bye.